जोर से देखो कितना जोर से लग रहा है देखो।
Please go on mute, guys. Okay, what we discussed in last class, I think we are seeing how we can secure the configuration, right? Today we are going to see how we can externalizing the properties file sometimes. Yeah, good evening, guys. Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah.
जोर से देखो कितना जोर से लग रहा है देखो।
Please go on mute, guys. Okay, what we discussed in last class, I think we are seeing how we can secure the configuration, right? Today we are going to see how we can externalizing the properties file sometimes. Externalizing the property files. Okay, so what is the meaning of externalizing? I think externalizing SIN. I think spelling is somewhat different, but okay. Now you can see in the previous classes what we done. So generally what we do, so we can place our config file inside of your project src main / resources. But in some rare situations, some on-premises servers are available. In those situations, they are following some different staging. So what they do is instead of placing their configuration files inside of the src main resources, they place inside of some physical device. Let us say you can see. So there is a inside of the D folder. Let us assume this is your server. Inside of the server, your on-premises server is available. Inside of that one, there is a folder is that config. Inside of that config, they are placing all their configuration files. Okay. Now you can see inside of the D drive, there is a folder is called the config. Inside of that one, so there are different configuration files are available. Now what is my requirement is I want to read the data or I want to read the properties from this external config files. You guys understand what is my requirement? So I'm not placing my configuration file inside of the src main resources. It is available inside of some physical location. Now I want to point my configuration files from that location. So this we can call it as externalizing the properties. Okay, you guys understand what is the meaning of externalizing the properties?
Can you explain one more time, sir?
Yeah, let me see. You can see previously your property files are available here, right? Am I right? You can see.
Yeah.
Now here there is no properties are available. Am I right?
Correct.
Now we will try to run the program. Definitely it is throwing an error. But what is the situation here? So instead of placing the configuration properties inside of your project folder, what they do is they're placing all the properties file inside of the one physical location inside of your server. Where is your mule application is running. So inside of the server, they're placing all your configuration files under the folder name config. So that means they're providing some extra level of security. So instead of placing all config files inside of the project folder, they're dynamically pointing to this location. Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what is your requirement is you need to pass this physical location to that config location. So generally how we can pass the config files? So which settings it is pointing?
Global.
Inside of the global elements, which property is responsible for right? Configuration property. Go to edit. So previously you can see it is pointing to like this one, right? So whatever the environment variable you are passing dev.q.ml, so that is automatically pointing. But here the problem is this file is not available inside of resources. It is available some externalized, right? So that external location is also we need to pass as your runtime parameter. You got it? Because that location is I want to pass dynamically at during the program execution. So how we can pass those values during program execution? Through runtime parameters only. Okay, now you can see I'm showing my runtime settings. Environment, you can see I'm using one variable. What is the name of the variable?
LOC.
LOC means location. So where I am pointing D
D.
inside of the D config. That means so your configuration property files are available inside of this location. This value is available inside of this runtime parameter. Then what is your duty? You need to pass this variable value to configuration property. Got it, guys?
Yeah.
Now go to edit. So where you can see here we need to pass it. So what is that runtime variable name?
LOC.
LOC. Okay, as of now. Okay, now. So this is the one way. Then we can click on OK. Let's save the program. You can see there is no configuration file is available. Let's try to execute it. Whether it is picking the information from the configuration file or not. Once your execution is done, then you can understand why we are externalizing that property file. If this program is executing, it is only displaying the username and password, right? You can see previous example, we have changed that one, don't. Okay. There is no configuration file is available. Then let's see whether it is picking that information or not. It is deployed correctly, then you can hit it. So we get the data from your property file, right? Let us example. For example, I'm changing it. What we do. No, I'm removing this database select because I want to change the username, right? If you place this one where it is throwing an error. Now you can see I'm save this program. Let's hit it one more time. 1 second. Database config, it is should be. I'm removing it, otherwise it is throwing an error. Yeah, that's it. I will show you what. Yeah, I'm restarting the application. Now it is picking the data from 1 second. What is happening? I think my application is still no. Secure property, configuration property, everything is there. Then we can run one more time. What is the need of externalizing the property? I will explain here. For example, I want to change my port number. I want to change my user ID and password, something. When we place that that property file inside of this resources folder, again, we need to open that folder. We need to change it, right? So instead of that one, when we externalizing the property, we can directly go to that location and we can able to change it. That is the advantage of externalizing the property. You can see my DB user is the root and password. Let's say, for example, I'm going to the D drive config folder. So this is the file. I'm just opening it and I try to change the value inside of my physical location. You can see. So this time, what is the one DB password user is the root. For example, I am giving this username as the mule and I'm saving it. Okay, let's check it. You can see I'm not touching any point studio, right? So I'm simply go to the physical location of the property file and I'm changing the variable values. Now, according to that one, your application should be executed. Whenever you are modified any property file, again we need to restart your project. That's point, just remember it. Let's check this one. Now it is deployed, then you can hit it. Now you can see. So without touching my Anypoint Studio, you can see I'm simply go to my wherever my external files are available, property file, there I can change it. So this is the one of the flexibility when we externalizing the properties inside of your server. Got it, guys? So here what is, yeah.
So the flow, we have removed the database part, right?
Yeah.
So how is picking from transform message?
No. You can see I'm just printing this. The P function, by using the P function, I'm picking the property values.
Oh, that we are passing from that.
Yes. So where this value is db.user, so this is available inside of the property file. Where is your property file? D inside of the D. So this is the physical location. So whenever some new requirement is comes in, we need to change your database password. Again, you can go to this location and you can change it and you can restart your server. Automatically, those settings are reflected. right?
Yeah, can you open that notepad? Password
one?
value.
Yeah.
It's in encrypted format. Password. Where is password?
The password where this we can see where your passwords are available. We are creating the encrypted data
Separate password.
inside
So
of,
this is
right?
also we can externalize.
Yeah, we can externalizing it. If you want, you can place this one. So where we can define this data? For example, I'm copying this one. For example, you want to pick this data from externalizing one. So here I'm placing it now. Simple. The same thing we can follow it. I can remove this one. You can see I removed it and I stop the project. So go to the global elements where we can provide that securing property, right? So in this is the property edit. So by default, this is your name of your securing configuration YAML file where it is available. Where it is available inside of the property, inside of your project folder or outside of the project folder.
Outside.
Then here we need to provide the location. How we can pass the location? Through runtime parameter. How we can access the runtime parameter? By using the placeholder, that is the LOC. After this one, inside of that one, we can slash it. Okay. For example, the key also I want to pass as a one. I can see Control X. What I'm do generally, I'm creating it. I can give CRYPT encrypt key equal to. Okay. So I am reading this data, right? Generally, we don't place value directly here. So this should be also coming as a your property file where it is CRYPT encrypt dot key. Okay. So the first one is where you, sorry.
Location we have to provide.
Where's my
Yeah. So the location we are providing, this is coming from your runtime parameter, na? The same location.
Key is also coming from, key is also coming externally. So we have to provide location.
No. You can see this key is available inside of dev.yaml file, right? So generally in the real time, this key also we can pass as a runtime parameter. For this example, I am showing like this one. Okay. Because your key is dynamic, right? So we don't generally with this key is also we can able to provide it as a passed as a runtime parameter. Okay. Just remember it. First we will check this one, then we can change that value also. Okay. So this is the one. Then click on OK. Then save your program and let's execute it. Let's check it.
So we have to save that notepad.
Yeah, it's already saved. Yeah, 1 second. Let's check it whether it is picking the data from those configuration files or not. Now it is failed. Now we can check this one. Encrypt dot key where it is encrypt dot key, and let's hit it one more time. I can run the program. Again, it is failing. 1 second. Okay, it is not getting the data from that file. Let's check it where it is available inside of this one. And
we have to provide location as well.
sorry. No.
So
This
same
is
as
coming
file.
right. Otherwise, we can do. We can pass this variable also as a runtime variable. Then it is very easy. Encrypt key. Then click on OK. We can stop this one. Go to run configuration. Go to environment. I'm adding. See what is the value.
Password only at that one.
Password at the rate 123. Okay. So you can pass the here. Then click on OK. Apply and run it. Let's save the program. Oh, I got it. Yeah, why it is failing. Okay. So for the securing configuration file, it is always looking the data inside of which file? So this is always looking the data inside of this file, right? That's why it is throwing an error. Inside of this one, there is no encrypt key is there. That's why it is throwing an error. Okay. This time there is no problem. You can see now it has got executed. Then we can hit it. You can see
Yes.
mule is there, password is there. So generally we can able to pass your keys and location of your externalizing the properties just like this one. Okay, so here this is the one approach. There is one more approach is there. So inside of your flow, how we can able to refer your runtime parameters, nothing but, so you can see we need to create different global properties. You can see what is this one. What is the
Global
name of this one? Global property. First I'm deleting one more thing. So first we can whenever we need to save some external I mean runtime parameters or some properties, what we need to create it, simply click on creator. So here always we need to create the global property. So click on global property. So which one? For example, I want to save the location. So what is this location? The location contains whatever the runtime parameter you are passing of location value. So how we can access that location? What is the runtime parameter you are using? Otherwise, you can give config path. I like that one. So config path. Config path means wherever the config file available, that path we want to save it. So where it is available? So how we can pass this config path?
Location slash.
Right, so what parameter that is? That is your runtime parameter, right? So how we can access the runtime parameter? Again, by
Yeah.
using the
Placeholder.
placeholder. What is the name? That is the
LOC.
LOC. So what is the need of creating the global properties? Nothing but, for example, the same runtime parameter I want to use it somewhere else, then again we need to refer this one, right? So instead of that one, I'm simply saving the global property. Whenever we require this value, we can simply access this value directly. So then click on OK. So what is the other property we are passing? There is one more property we are passing now. What is that one? What is the other one? Anyone? We are passing one more value, right? Encrypt key. You guys are right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that we can call it as a pass key. Otherwise, pass key I am using. Okay, where it is available?
It's inside dev.yaml.
No. It is coming as your runtime parameter, right? That is your encrypt key, right? CRYPT encrypt key. So instead of directly accessing those runtime parameter, what I am done is I'm saving these runtime parameters inside of the global property. Whenever we require these values, again, we no need to refer this runtime parameter directly. We can use these values. Okay. So this is the way we cannot exposing the whatever the runtime parameter values are there. Okay. So this is the pass key, then click on OK. So here we need to configure. So where we can configure, go to secure configuration this time. So we need to pass the runtime parameter or we need to use the global property.
Global property.
So what is the global property name of your location?
Config path.
Then we can use the same thing, config path. Okay, then first one is there. The next one is encrypt key. Instead of encrypt key, what we need to use it? Pass key. Okay, then click on OK. So is there any other parameter we need to change it? No. There is one more property is there, that is the securing configuration. This is the normal configuration. So this one also we need to change it, right? Normal config path, click on OK. Then save the program. Let's try to hit it. So inside of the global property, so we can able to save whatever the property value you required. Okay. So whenever we required, we can use this global property. Okay. So this we can call it as externalizing the property file. Let's hit it, then we can hit it. Now you can see I'm getting the data, DB user and everything. So this is the way we can able to externalizing the properties. Okay, guys. So this is all about the properties and securing configurations and externalizing the properties. Okay. So at this you have any doubts, then you can ask me. Because the whenever you are onboarding for any existing project, first we need to identify where your configuration files are available. So inside of the config files only we can able to get that configuration files. Okay, got it, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the simple one is how we can identify these configuration files is nothing but, so wherever you are seeing, this placeholder, then blindly you can go for, there is a configuration file is available, so we can pick the value from that configuration. So that's remember. Okay, so wherever you are seeing this placeholder, the placeholder intention is we need to pick the data from your config file. Okay, am I right, guys? Yeah. So that's about configuration properties and everything. Okay. So at this point, these are very, very important, most important points were covered: file connectors and database connectors and configuration. Then, yeah. So there is one more thing is there. First, maybe you are hear this word most frequently. I will explain what is the first thing. So anyone can have an idea about this one. API led
Activity.
RICH
CHT.
TUGTU architecture. Anyone know about this one? API led architecture.
There are 3 layers in Mule.
Yeah. So what is an API? Anyone? We are creating the REST based APIs, right? So what is the REST based API? I'm just recollecting what we learned so far. What is the REST based one? REST all. What is the REST? Anyhow?
Representational state of transfer.
What is the one? What is the REST?
To communicate between two
It's a
servers.
simple architecture. That's important. REST is nothing but simple architecture. We can either a client and server is there. The client send the request at the other end. The server takes that one and it is returning the some response, right? So whatever the APIs you are created, so those are following the client and response manner. So it's in some situation, somebody already created the APIs, right? Already existing APIs are there. You want to use that APIs inside of your API. Existing APIs are there, and you want to, technically we can call it as, we want to consume the other APIs inside of your API, right? How we can do that one? Now you got it, one point. So you want to consume the other APIs, whatever the APIs are already existing or whatever the APIs are already built. So you want to use those APIs inside of your API, right? So that is the first point. So you are created one API. How we can call this API? How we can call the API? Whatever the API you are created, how we can call it?
URL HTTP.
Yeah, tell me. So by using the URL and next one,
Endpoint.
where we need to place this URL, that is the most important one. The endpoint is also coming inside of the URL, na? So where we can place this URL?
Just like post on any client.
So that we can call it as a web app.
Yeah.
That means inside of the web app, when we place any URL, the REST-based URL, it is automatically executing that API and it is gives the data, right?
Yes.
So in so far for to usage of the web app, what is your starting point?
HTTP.
HTTP, right? Now you can see. So previously, whenever we are creating the HTTP, there are two operations we can able to provide it. One is you can directly hit your new API. The second one is we can able to call the existing one, right? That means whenever we need to consuming the already existing API, again we need to use the HTTP connector only. And inside of that one, there is a one particular connector is there. That is, what is the one?
Requester.
HTTP requester. What is the usage of HTTP requester?
To call the API.
To call the API, our existing APIs we can able to call inside of your API. Okay, which connector we need to use it?
HTTP.
Then again, I'm asking one question. What is the need of calling already existing APIs?
To make
What
use
is
of
the need? What is the need? What is the need of calling SIS existing APIs? What is the need? Can anyone tell me why we need to call the already existing APIs inside of your application? If you answer this one, then you can easily understand what is an API-led architecture. What is the need? Tell me. Anything, just try it. So API is already there, then why we need to call that one?
to fulfill our business requirement.
To fulfill business requirement, you can able to create your own, na? Then what is the need of existing one?
We can make use of already existing API.
Make
Just
use
top
of, okay, that's the one. Make use of,
already available.
make use of existing one. The next, any other? Any other? Make use of existing API or any other one? For example, in your organization, so there is a requirement is there, you need to communicate with the your Salesforce, or otherwise make use of, we need to call the data from the Salesforce or SAP system, right? So again, we no need to create we no need to create the any API from the scratch, because that providers are already created the APIs and they are giving those API name. Then we can able to reuse the already created APIs, right?
Yes.
So that means we can reusability. They're promoting the reusability when we calling up APIs, right? So that is the concept. Just remember what is the what? Reusability. So every time we no need to start with creation of API from the scratch. So if somebody already created the API, then we can able to use that API inside of your sub API, right? Just like your header files, right? So somebody already created the code and it is available as a package or available as a header file. Then we can simply importing that code and we can start using of that one. The same philosophy they are using. So if somebody X or Y just developed the API, then we can able to use that API again and again inside of your API. So here, how we can create those reusability of API means that will be understand by this API-led architecture. So the API-led architecture is nothing but it is one kind of architecture how we can make the APIs as a reusable APIs. You got it? My point? What is the API-led architecture is nothing but it is one kind of technique how we can design the APIs to make them as a reusable. Okay. So when somebody asks the question, what is the API-led architecture is nothing but the API-led architecture always inform to you how we can create the APIs to make them as a reusable. So the mule point of view, they're already converting all the APIs whenever we're creating into three categories. The first one is anyone?
System.
Yeah. Again, we can come with the reverse order, then it is very easy. The first one, we can call it as a system API. The second one, we can call it as a anything process API. And the first one, we can call it as
business
API. Okay. So what is the process API? What is the system API? And I will explain in simple example, then you can understand. It is very simple, right? No need to spend a lot of time. Just first, I will show you one simple example. Anyone can tell me what is the system API? Anyone? What is the system API? Any idea at least? No? Let us say simple sample use case. I want to pick the data of employee information. My data is available inside of database. Okay. Now you can see how simple you can, where your data is available
inside database.
Right. Let us say, so this is your data. Okay. So you need to pick the data from this database, right? Otherwise, your data is available inside of data warehousing technology, DW. Otherwise, your data is available inside of the cloud. Okay. Now, what is your requirement? You need to pick the data from the, what are all these things?
DB,
No.
data storage device.
Sources, right? So whatever the API you are created to pick the data from the data sources, those we can call it as a, that's it, very simple. Okay, these are also APIs, but main intention of these APIs is the system API main intention is they can pick the data from the
Databases.
data sources, not a database. As you can see in this example, your data is available inside of the cloud, inside of the database, inside of the data Pharaoh, something they are using the SAP system. So what is your ultimate aim? Whenever we need to pick the data from the data sources, first we need to create the
System API.
system API. That is your first level, right? Now you can see once your data is coming. So by creating the system API, you are fetching the data, right? Now you are getting the data from the employee. Then what you need to do? So again, what you need to do? So you need to create the, or you need to process the data, right?
Yes.
Right, the processing is nothing but, so inside of the database there is employee database is there, their employee information, there are 40 columns of data is there, but according to my business logic I want to display the 20 columns, employee name, job, salary, something like that one. That means whatever the data you are picking from this data source, again we need to reprocess it, right? Am I right? So that means we need to create different set of APIs. So these set of APIs are represent the your business logic. Okay. So list of business requirement. For example, I want to pick the data from my employee table, which is contain 40 columns, but I want to pick the only first employee name only. Otherwise, so one second. This data is not bidirectional. So once your data is picking from the data sources, according to your business logic, you need to fetch that information. Because business logic is nothing but whatever the business. For example, there is employee information. I want to display only job-wise employee information. Otherwise, salary-based employee information. That information only I want to save it. That is my business logic. That entire business logic will be written inside of this level. So what is this level? This level we can call it as a, process level. Whatever the API you are created, the process level, those APIs we can call it as a process level. So that means inside of the process APIs what we have. So whatever the LOBs, that means business logic is there, that will be written inside of your process API. Okay, got it?
Yes. Yes.
So for this process API, where we can get the data?
From database.
No. Where we can get the data for this process APIs?
From client.
No.
Data sources.
Data source.
So
No.
you can forget about the data sources. So data sources getting the data inside of.
System.
Then you can now you can again I'm asking you for the process API we need data. Where it is getting?
List of business.
Where it is getting?
System
From
System
system
API.
API only we can get the data into the process API.
Correct.
So inside of the system API, where we can get the data?
Data sources.
Okay, now you can understand the terminology.
Yes.
So the system APIs are getting the data from the data sources. When data is needed by process API, then we need to consume the
System API.
system API. Once data is processed, then we need to give the response to the my end user, right? So
Yes.
how we can give the response to the my end user? I need to transform the data according to my requirement. Okay, let us say for example, I want to display data as a JSON format or XML format. So I want to represent the data, right? I want to represent the data, that we can call it as a, system is completed, process is completed. What is the remaining?
Business.
Business.
That
Experience
business
API.
logic, that means that we can call it as a presentation APIs, that business APIs. So those are not processing any data, they're only displaying the data only. Okay, so those, okay, so these APIs then represent the data. For example, it is my logic. So I want to represent the data inside of the JSON format, or otherwise I want to display the XML format, or otherwise I want to display the some data according to my requirement, some whatever the user asking some particular data, I want to give the response, right? So for this one, where we can get the data?
Process API.
Process API, right? You can see. So, okay. So whatever the APIs are you are written, these we can call it as a
Business API.
okay, business API. Now you can see I'm asking one simple interview question. So the business APIs only tell about the presentation of data. Okay. Now, so there are three levels are available, right? So in which level we are going to implement your business logic,
Process API.
Process
right?
API.
So that means you can see. So every time which part generally we need to change it.
Business
The
language
new
process
requirement comes into your project. The new requirement is nothing but there is an we need to write the new process, right? So every time we need to create, which one?
List of
Process
business.
API. New business.
Business APIs or process API or system API? Which one generally we need to create it?
Process API.
Process
Process
API.
API.
That means you can see every time we no need to create your entire project from the scratch. Only we need to create the process API and we can able to connect it, right? So for example, in future, there is a new, there is already existing project is there. So for example, this LOB is not usable. Then we can simply remove it and we can add the new API layer, right? That means, so every time we no need to create your entire project from the scratch. This is the way we can create the API and we make them as a reusable. For example, this LOB required data. Then the already existing system API is there. Then we can call the system API. Again, we no need to create the system API to fetch the data. Once the data is coming, according to your requirement, you are created the process API. Whatever the process API generating output, then we can we can forward the data to the business API, then it is displaying, right? So that means most of the cases, what we do, we need to change the or we need to modify the process
Process
API
API.
only. Okay. So we can make them the APIs as a reusable component by following these three level of architecture. Whatever you are seeing, that we can call it as a API-led architecture. Got it? So technically, the system API in sometimes they can call it as a SAPI. S indicates the system API, and the process API we can call it as a business API, PAPI or something, or PA API, process API, and so these we can call it as a BAPI. Okay, just remember. So the SAPI is nothing but they're always responsible to fetch the data from the data sources.
Data.
The process API is always responsible to write your LOB. That means list of business logic is there. We note once business logic is done, then we need to represent the data. For example, you are using the mobile application, then we need to give the response in one format. You are using the desktop application, according to your end user point of view, you need to recreate your response, right? So that recreating response is developed by your business API. Okay. So this is your API led architecture. So got it, guys? Oh, 1 second. Okay. Here, the one more interview question they're asking is, so how we can implement this API led architecture? When someone asks this question, then what is your answer? It's very simple. You can see what is this one? Consuming the other API inside of the one API. By using which component we can able to do this one?
HTTP requester.
That means whenever we need to call the other APIs or whenever we need to implement the API-led architecture, which connector we need to use it?
HTTP request.
That's it. That is the technical. This is the theoretical one. So when we go to the implementation part, always we need to use HTTP requester. So this is your API-led architecture. It's very, very simple. Now you can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So this interview point of view time, it is very important. This is the simple one. Okay, don't expect API duct is a very bigger thing. It's very small. How we generally, okay, in the real-time organization, the most of the cases we need to create all these the things, the system APIs and process API and business APIs. Some organization, the business API and process API both are same. In some organization, what they do is they created the whatever the logic is there inside of the business API. They are not going to create any process API. Okay, but definitely the system APIs are there. Just remember. Okay, it's up to you. Your project design is there, but they are giving the philosophy like this one. So it is better to create the APIs just like this one, because every time we no need to go for the scratch. So this is the way we can able to create your APIs. So technically this we can call it as a API-led architecture. Okay. Okay, that's it. I think tomorrow we can start this HTTP request and all these things. Okay. So just today, just follow. Is there any extra information there, API-led architecture, and you can try to complete all the remaining things. Tomorrow we are going to see that HTTP requester and everything. Okay. Is there anything
Yes.
I missed? So far we are going on right track. Okay.
So-
For this, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When RAML we are going to cover as a part of API only, RAML.
Yeah, actually, the first we need to start the rammer, but when we start the rammer is everything is in the blank. That's first we will see the implementation part, and next we are going to see that is the second part. We are converting two parts. One part is implementation, and the second part is the deployment is there. Na? For the deployment, first we need to write the rammer only. Okay, there you can understand. Don't worry.
So we are
Without
going to
rammer,
cover.
there is no API is there. Okay, don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I make it as very simple, then you can easily understand, right? Everything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Is there any doubts? Then you can ask me. Yeah. So for the properties, this is the one. Just remember, what is this one? What is the usage of the P function?
To access the value
To
from property.
access the values from your property file. The P indicates property. Just remember.
Property.
Okay. So this is the one of the interview question. Just remember. That's all it, guys. Okay. Tomorrow we are start with the API-led architecture implementation, and first we will see the normal one. Then we can create one API-led architecture API, 3 levels of API, and I will show you. Okay, in the real time how we can able to track it and everything. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all for today's class. Is there any doubts? Then you feel free to ask now.